I did my degree thesis back in 1988. So it's still a long way to go, in my personal opinion. But I'd like to hand that question over to Anil first of all.
So the first question was to
give your introduction and what's your perspective of where we are in the market for AI and ML in terms of your business. So who you are, what you do, and where you think it is in the evolution of your industry.
Okay, so as a short introduction, I'm a Swiss citizen. I've been living here for 10 years in Dubai, and I'm the CEO of a company called Creed and Bear. We have an office in Zug, and we have an office in Dubai that we've opened recently, where we already have 30 employees, mainly focusing on coding and developing AI solutions. Just a personal note, I've been, for the last 25 years, I was always in traditional finance. I was a senior banker in UBS. I was in my last job the CEO of EFG Private Bank. And 3 years ago, my wife became an NFT artist in the UAE. And through her, I've met a lot of the ecosystem in the digital space. And we were doing dinners every Monday at home with 10 curated people in the ecosystem. And I've been fascinated by all the people I've met in this space. So I've been very keen to jump from the old, more traditional finance to come into the more digital space. And 8 months ago, I met the two founders who are here today, who wanted to develop a company which is investing in the digital space using AI. So this is a very short introduction of who I am and why I'm here.
So Adrian Bielanczyk, the founder and CEO of Quantex, if you can give a short introduction of how you ended up in this space and where do you see it going?
Thanks, Angus. Thanks, everyone. My name is Adrian Bielanczyk. I actually just have a couple questions for the audience, which will directly tie into what my business does and my thoughts on AI. There's a model created by Google in 2018 called the BERT model, BERT, B-E-R-T. Has anyone here ever heard of that model? Could you raise your hand? BERT, we got a couple.
Show of hands of those who've heard of it.
Maybe 2 or 3 here, so not very many individuals. But so Google released this paper on this technique which can understand text analysis. And there's different applications. If you're given one sentence, you can use this BERT model to predict what the next sentence will be about. Sorry, I think my mic is a little bit half-half, so. But this model developed by BERT, by Google, was like the state of the art, and it could predict with 75% accuracy the meaning of text. And recently, oh, thank you. Let's try this one. Hello, hello, hello. Is that, you guys can hear me? Good, cool, thanks. That was in 2018, and a couple years ago, there was a new model that came out called FinBERT. So we're all in the financial domain, and this FinBERT model is specific to whether you're in the banking sector, payments, asset management. There's this new state-of-the-art technique. So that's kind of what my business does. We apply those NLP models onto financial data. We use them for forecasting stock prices.
So thanks for that, Adrian. Abe Sesek. Abe, you've been here for a long time.
Yeah,
a few years in Canada.
I have, yeah. I've lived most of my life between here and Canada. So hello, everybody. My name is Abe Sesek, or my legal name is Ibrahim. I've been in tech since forever, since late 90s. And currently I am the CEO of Rainmaking and Startup Bootcamp, which is, Startup Bootcamp is an accelerator for startups, and Rainmaking, we're a corporate venture studio. And we've been working with a lot of corporates, build really cool startups. And why am I on this panel is because I have a lot of experience in AI, but mostly in customer experience driven AI, and where we tie up a lot of our understanding and of our data into our decision making. And we put a twist that most of our AI data points are actually done in the Arabic language through voice. So not a lot of companies are doing that in this region. So we're hoping that we can add a lot of value to most of the corporates.
So Abe, I'll pass the next question back to you then. You can expand on that. a little bit more. So, what kind of use cases are you looking to use that for, and where is the technology and maturity, given that you've done the Arabic translation?
So the maturity, we're still, I think, in the real early stages of our journey. I can't give it a percentage, but it's a really small number. And we've been leveraging a lot of our. We run a lot of customer call centers slash experience centers to all of our customers, and we've been on the ground for the last almost 17 years. And today we almost capture almost 1 million data point a day. And we do all kinds of data capturing, from tone to even paste, speech, words, certain things. And what we've been seeing is we've been and we've been working a lot with our machine learning engineers to enhance both the CRM aspect of the business, because the CRM is a very crucial part of any business, essentially, and also the customer data platforms, the CDPs, where we get better organization for data, and we get to focus on the data that we want to better understand. And we really need to clear a lot of the noise, because you can capture a lot of data, but sometimes some data is not something that you can work with. And this is what my experience has been in for the last couple of years doing this platform.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm going to come back to that more in the next round of question. But Adrian, so what's your mission? What are you trying to do in terms of your platform with Quantex? What are you actually trying to do? I know that in the introduction we had a discussion about sentiment and what you're trying to track and look for specifically, and how do people benefit from that? If I'm a company, for example, how am I going to benefit from your platform?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I'm a big believer in mission. So I assume many of us are kind of mission driven, and we work in the investment industry. We specifically try finding investments that have some bigger meaning. You can call it like an impact investing under the ESG umbrella. Text analysis is one specific application we follow. But I just wanted to piggyback on the last question, actually, of how to quantify where we are in AI. And this is another question. Not many people knew the BERT model. Who here knows computer vision, what computer vision is? Very generally. Like, most people probably know what that is. It's the ability of the computer to detect what's going on in an image. And in research and academia, about 95% of the time, humans can accurately predict what the object is in some not too far distance. So I see there's a camera back there. 95 out of 100 people would know that's a camera. 5% might need glasses or contacts or who knows. But the reason I say that, so 10 years ago, the computer was able to surpass that 95% accuracy in these computer vision models. And right now we're about 98% that computer vision can perform compared to the 95% of humans. So I'm a big believer now that there's recent developments. Angus did his PhD in AI in the 1990s or some years ago, but the performance of the AI wasn't very strong back then. Now we have a lot more data, and the models are based on compute power. They're performing a lot better than they did before. So I think now is a very good time to adapt, and there's certain use cases that it makes more or less sense than, as I mentioned before, we're looking just at text analysis. But in general, I think the application of AI in finance, whatever the domain is, so long as you have the compute resources and the data, I think it's a very powerful tool.
So Adrian, I'm going to ask you to expand on that, because you talked to me about how you're looking at it for news feeds and for sentiment and for things like Twitter feeds. Can you explain how that can be used for benefit of organizations?
Yeah, so the specific, I guess, back to your mission-driven point is we look at Twitter and we make investment recommendations based off of tweets that fit into some category of, in ESG, you categorize it on this company, ExxonMobil, I was reading on them today, has huge carbon emission challenges. So that raises a red flag when you're doing investing. We look at faith-driven investing strategies. So whether it's Christian, Muslim, whatever your faith is anywhere in the world, we have some criterias. And we try to see which of these companies are maybe more aligned with whatever your faith and your impact investing strategy is. So right now, just on Twitter, but we look at a bunch of alternative data sources. And the idea is to be the Bloomberg of alternative data for impact investing.
Thanks for that, Adrian. So Anil, you have explained in your introduction that these days you're in the last few years in investing here for institutions and individuals in Dubai. You've come from a banking background, a very risk-averse banking background in Switzerland. And you're now using the latest AI technology and algorithms in your offerings. Can you explain what you're doing and how you mitigate the risk and still give good returns using AI in your financial solutions?
Okay, so as you said, I would say the last 20 years, I've been trying to find solutions for clients to have the best risk return in their portfolios. And this can be a challenging journey. And for people who are invested today, I mean, the performance year to date in the markets have been a catastrophe. And the 60-40 model of investment has not worked. So when I met the partners of Creed and Bear and they showed me some of their solutions, I discovered the power of AI. And AI, without being too technical, really seems to me as the new electricity, and it will change everything. It changes everything how we approach decision making, investments, interpretation of data. The information that we can analyze through AI is, I saw a quote this morning from a very good, from a statistician who was saying, without data, you're just another man with an opinion. And in data, we find truth. In data, we find very strong ability to predict the next move in the markets. And what I've seen in terms of performance that we have achieved through Creed and Bear on the portfolios was almost shocking for somebody coming from the traditional world, because I was like, how come we've not been using that before? The performance are stellar. I'm almost scared to share this performance sometimes with some of my colleagues from the more traditional banking, because it's hard to explain how these returns work so well. But that is part of the power of AI, I think.
So Anil, I'll just get you to expand on that a little bit in a minute or two. So obviously you're using algorithmic trading in something like crypto and BTC perpetual futures. So, you know, in a market where the market's gone down 60, 70% this year, for example, and there's lots of volatility, and a lot of people lost a lot of money in crypto, digital or virtual assets, and also in the equity markets this year. People are still making quite healthy returns using algos in Forex and in things like futures and BTC. So what sort of performance are you seeing?
So, I mean, what is interesting is that AI works also in the traditional market. You can use AI models to trade Forex, to trade equities. But what we realized in Creed and Bear, that the digital space is very inefficient. It's a bit like for people who were in the market 20 years ago where Forex was. So there's more inefficiencies, more gaps in the digital space. That's why we focused ourselves in that space. And in the traditional market, we still use fundamental research, because you can look at earnings, you can look at interest rates, they will have an impact on your company valuation. Where in digital, there's no fundamentals. So AI works even better because it's all sentiment driven. It's an emotional market. People are emotional, people are irrational, and using AI solution allows you to capture and predict the movements in advance. So the returns, I don't want to go too much in the specific of the different returns, but our models, what we've done, we have been in double-digit returns year to date with extremely low volatility, because we have diversified our portfolios, blended them in a way that is extremely efficient in terms of risk return.
Thanks for that, Anil. Adrian, yes.
I just want to add one quick point where I was talking to Anil and the founding team before. I don't know if they have some compliance, but I don't work with them, so I can disclose what I heard through the grapevine. And I heard their Sharpe ratio was 2, which I used to run a hedge fund, and it's very, very challenging to achieve that type of like return to risk. If I was an investor in the board, I would talk to these guys afterwards and see if they need some extra capital to allocate. Yeah, not legal. I don't work for the company, so.
So, Adrian, I'll give you the chance because we've got about 5 minutes to go, and I'd like to give some questions from the floor. So, from your point of view, where do you've come all the way from California to be here today, right? So, what's your message to the audience as far as AI or sentiment? Where's it going to be in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's a very challenging space actually, where I used to run an AI consulting firm that we tried running a hedge fund, but we couldn't get that same performance. And a lot of it, you need the resources, right? So a lot of times if you have some data sources, those like linear models or the rule-based models, those actually perform better in many, many scenarios. And I wouldn't just jump into doing some like fancy, like the BERT model I mentioned, some unnecessarily complicated problem just because it's, it's a cool buzzword. And if you're raising some venture capital, you can say you do AI. So there's a lot of hype to it, but I'd also be very practical on, again, those linear regressions in many, many scenarios perform just as good as the different AI models, and you can actually understand what's going on. Many of these models are black boxes, so when we analyze text, it's going to tell us that the meaning of this word is a very positive sentiment, but it doesn't tell us the reason for that. So AI, I would just kind of approach it with caution that don't jump into something just because it's very hypey, unless you need some venture capital money and that's what they want to hear. But the actual like practical applications, the more basic models, I think actually perform as good in many, many scenarios.
So, Adrian, you're saying it's still a very early market, which is also my opinion as well. It's very, very early days, but it's great that this region and the countries and the UAE is leading in that dimension. So, I'll hand the last point to you, Abe, from your conclusion point of view. So, you're using tone and voice to pick up customer experience and sentiment using AI and what you do. So, how can people benefit and the audience benefit from the platform you use? And what's the level of maturity and what do you expect to deliver over the next coming months?
So we actually have been looking a lot of things, and we've been helping a lot of our customers. And the founders usually are very interactive with their customers about predictive analysis. And from there, we've actually found a lot of areas where people can offer new products. They can offer new, even sub-products to certain issues that they're issues that were completely blind to some of our clients and some of our customers. This is something that was very apparent. The other thing is, I think when we came in and we opened, these guys opened the company years ago, was there was a huge lack in personalized experience. And there was a huge lack in understanding what people want. They felt mostly, whatever works in the US will work in the UAE, whatever works in the UK will work in Saudi, and that's not the case. Obviously, there was a lot of these data points that were validated, as my colleague Neil said. Like a lot of people were saying, my gut says this, but no data-driven actual numbers, right? So. We feel that there's going to be a lot of interactions in the future, especially how do we combine third-party data with people's data that they're gathering. There is a lot of analysis and a lot of data points that are going to come into this business, and that you're going to have to, I guess, maneuver your way around that data.
Okay, Abe. So I'd like to say thanks to everyone. We've got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions maximum before we finish. And so anyone got any burning questions? Because if you don't have, we're almost out of time anyway. And you can always speak to the panelists at the end of the presentation. Anyone get any burning critical questions just now before we finish? Okay, that's good for me because it's silent and we're out of time. So I'd like to thank our panelists and thank you all for listening. Thanks very much.